Yeah, I wanted to cover that. The other day I brought up I was bringing Think and Grow Rich, and you brought up how that was influenced. I don't know. You listed a few people that was influenced by Lincoln, and then Euclid, and how Lincoln studied a lot about public speaking. I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, Scott Adams, who is the cartoonist for Dilbert, has been doing a series on his blog about how Donald Trump's style of persuasion works.
Okay.
He also did a video for Reason TV on calling Trump a master wizard. And the idea that Scott Adams has is that there are some people who have really mastered the art of communication. And these people he calls master wizards because they can influence the way you think without you really realizing that they have this kind of sway over you.
Okay, but it's not clandestine.
No, it's just, as they say, it's basically...
It's a positive, it happens.
Well, that's the thing where it's... The argument is that the reason he's able to do such good persuading of voters is that he comes off a sales background. And so, like a lot of the things that he does that political journalists are just confused by, the answer is that, well, if you were in sales, these techniques would seem perfectly obvious to you, because these are the same techniques you use to have someone buy a car, or to buy a couch, or to buy a lamp.
He's just doing the big upsell from him, businessman to president.
Yes.
How would you like a president? Right.
Yes.
Okay. Got it.
But in the one of the more interesting all these things Scott Adams says about Trump are interesting. But one of my favorites is he does this genealogy of the Trump style of speaking. And he says that you would begin with Euclid.
Why are you calling genealogy? Really, linealogy?
Lineage. Well, genealogy, like, how one grows from another.
Okay, got it. Right.
Like a family tree.
All right. Oh, I see. Got it.
So the family tree would begin with Euclid, which is the ancient Greeks and their idea of rhetoric.
This family tree.
This family tree.
Begins with Euclid.
Begins with Euclid.
The ancient Greeks.
The ancient Greeks.
Was this the Greeks who were preceding the Byzantine? Or
yes.
No. Yeah, the Romans conquered the Greeks.
The Romans conquered the Greeks.
That we just covered in another video. Right. All right. So, so Euclid is a big guy.
Yeah, Euclid. You remember all the geometry you did in high school?
Yes.
Of Pythagorean theorem and things like that. As I say, most of that was probably wasted time.
I agree.
Because what they should have been doing is using this geometry to show you how to think through a problem, not necessarily to know how to do a triangle. Because Euclid's style is saying you have A, you have B, you have C, therefore you have D. And so Euclidean geometry teaches you this very structured style of thought, which then, if you can master that structured style of thought, you can put your thoughts together and you can be very persuasive.
Okay.
So they should have been teaching you Euclidean geometry to show you how to become a good salesman.
I got it.
As opposed to you teaching it for this abstract thing of A over B and
I got it. Okay. All right. Interesting.
So the way he lays this out is that
so geometry is just way off course.
No, but geometry is essential because it's that idea of learning how to do rhetoric.
Okay. Okay.
And so Lincoln had very few books, but the books he had, he truly absorbed. And so
because he read them many times.
Because he read them many times.
Right.
And this is one of the problems, we all have now lots and lots of books, so we read them only once.
Right.
Whereas if you only had 5 books, you read those same 5 books over and over again.
Right.
You'd really figure those books out.
Got it.
So Lincoln read Euclid's geometry, and so Lincoln
That's a book?
Yes.
That's a book.
Yes.
Euclid's geometry.
Well, Euclid's Elements is what it's called.
Okay.
And so he read the Elements. And he was then able to...
Because the book is pitched as a means of learning rhetoric?
No, it's just, it was just one of those kind of books that was, mass-produced, you'd find in a schoolhouse, and Lincoln just kind of gravitated towards it.
Got it, okay.
And so Lincoln does learn the art of rhetoric from the true source.
Got it.
Which is why he's such a good rhetorician. And Lincoln's kind of populist style and influences Mark Twain. And so Mark Twain is then friends with Andrew Carnegie.
Wait, okay, so Mark Twain is influenced by Lincoln.
Yes.
In what way? By Lincoln's writings or just his speaking? Or
well, as I say, his
not really. They're one much later than the other. Was Twain around?
Well, actually, they're contemporaries.
Oh, they are. All right.
But Lincoln's older than Twain.
Okay, so Mark Twain is hearing him on the radio?
Yeah, I mean the same kind of way that like if you were growing up in the '60s, you would hear John F. Kennedy style speaking,
right?
And
So
you'd be kind of influenced by.
So
that.
Twain is hearing Lincoln on the radio?
No, radio doesn't exist yet.
Okay,
He's
so-
reading in the newspapers.
That's right. All right.
But the key thing is that.
I like the contrast between knowing everything, knowing nothing. Okay.
But Gettysburg Address.
All right,
Okay,
all right.
Gettysburg Address is like short and to the point.
Got it.
And there's a book called Lincoln at Gettysburg by Gary Wills, who's a historian of rhetoric, historian of ancient Greek, ancient Romans, and also of modern America. And Gary Wills talks about the speeches given at the Gettysburg commemorative ceremony that day when they're commemorating the cemetery. Most of these speeches were very long, an hour and a half, 3 hours, and they had all this kind of bluster and flourish of 19th century American speaking style. Lincoln comes in and the whole thing is short, to the point, and can be written on the back of an envelope. And that's because he studied Euclid, so he's like paring everything down to its essentials. All the other politicians at the time are engaging in
Lincoln
this.
just looking at a picture of a triangle? He's like, I got it.
I got it. he's doing the Pythagorean theorem on the back of an envelope.
I'm ready, I got it.
And so, you know,
this is notes.
if A equals B equals C, which is quite literally how he's operating, saying if you believe in the Declaration of Independence, you then believe X, you believe Y, therefore you must be in favor of my policies.
Holy moly, it's a formula.
Yes.
It sounds like a movie. What was that other one? Anyway, go ahead.
Like the movie Pi.
Or the other one I was thinking, there was a Tom Hanks or something, it was a famous book.
Oh.
Anyway, whatever.
I'm not sure.
All right.
But as I say, like every other politician has this de Tocqueville talks about this democracy in America, where he says that American politicians just seem to go on and on and on and on as they talk. And de Tocqueville found this very odd and said this just must be an American characteristic.
But so Twain, bring me back to where Twain is studying Lincoln. How he's reading this book that was written.
Yeah, where
about
other authors at the time would be writing fiction where they would spend pages describing a table and describing a chair or something, where Twain knew just get right to the point. And so he could write very clear, concise, short stories.
But he was influenced by Lincoln because he read that book about Lincoln's speeches at the Gettysburg.
Oh no, this is later. Someone putting the dots together.
But so he just read them in the newspaper?
Yeah, he'd read them in the newspaper.
Okay.
Same way as they say, like like on The Simpsons, Mayor Quimby talks like John F. Kennedy.
Okay.
Because John F. Kennedy created this speaking style, which then American politicians for 30 years were trying to imitate.
Oh, I got it. All right.
And it's the
Twain
same
was
way.
inspired. I got it.
It's the same way they say Lincoln had such a unique speaking style, it was such an effective speaking style, that people then fed off it to say, if you really want to persuade someone, this is how you do it. And so as they say, you know, you can either do the heavy lifting of going back to Euclid, or you can like take one step back and read Lincoln, and then use Lincoln's speeches to figure out how to do a proper speech.
Or look at Twain.
Or look at Twain.
Okay, so and then continuing through to Carnegie, is that?
And so the next thing is that Twain and Andrew Carnegie become friends.
Okay.
And Andrew Carnegie,
Being this huge industrialist.
industrialist
Magnate, right, huge.
of the Gilded Age,
Which is the early 1900s.
late 1900s, after the Civil War,
The late 1800s.
late 1800s.
1800s, got it.
That
And Twain's wealthy, so that's why they run in the same circle?
yeah, they say
Okay.
Twain is one of
Famous.
the most famous
Right.
Americans on the planet.
Got
so they're now running the same social circles.
Got it, okay.
And so Twain helps Andrew Carnegie in his writing. Andrew Carnegie writes a book about how to become wealthy, and Andrew Carnegie then works with Napoleon Hill and commissions him to do the book Think and Grow Rich, which is where you come in.
Right, which is where I'm reading right now, I see.
And then the next stage after that is Napoleon Hill. Then his disciple is Norman Vincent Peale. And Norman Vincent Peale is a.
All right, we're getting Trump. All right,
we're getting Trump.
All right, yeah.
Is a Presbyterian preacher in Manhattan.
Peale?
Peale.
How do you spell it?
Peale.
Okay, Norman Vincent Peale. Okay.
And Adlai Stevenson, who ran for president twice in the 50s, hated Norman Vincent Peale.
Okay.
And he said, I find St. Paul appealing, and I find Peale appalling.
I got it.
And this
That's
kind
funny.
of jokes that
Yeah.
Adlai Stevenson was famous for, if you consider them jokes.
Mhm.
But, so what Adlai Stevenson didn't like is that Norman Vincent Peale had this kind of gospel of wealth, that Jesus wants you to be rich. So one of the people sitting in the pews of Norman Vincent Peale preaching is Donald Trump. And so if you want to...
Because his church was in Manhattan?
Yeah, his family went to this church in Manhattan.
Got it, right.
And it was also, as I say, the kind of thing of like, they were in Queens and the Bronx, but they wanted to
All right.
get into the upper class world of Manhattan.
Oh, got it, all right.
And one of the ways to do that was to hang out with the people going to Norman Vincent Peale's church. Like they always say, if you want to meet a nice girl, you go to church, you go to the library.
Got it.
And so they wanted to introduce Trump to like this cultivated world of Manhattan. And so one of the ways of doing that was taking him to the Sunday sermons of Norman Vincent Peale. And Trump says that he would just love these sermons. He could listen to them for hours. And so when people say, why is Trump like Trump? All you have to do is go back and read the writings of Norman Vincent Peale, and you see, oh, he's just basically has the same mindset as this guy from the 50s.
I see. Or you can read Lincoln, because they're kind of the same, or is it...
Well, as I say, this is where it keeps rolling back.
Is there a unified, like, are they all talking like Euclid, or are they changed it a little bit along
Well,
the way?
there are two
like,
factors.
could you make comparisons between Peale and Twain? Like, are they...
Yeah.
Okay.
The two things that would be the two common elements are, one, it's a very down-home, folksy style of speaking. Like they always say, Trump's just getting up there and ranting, and it's all crazy talk. But no, it's
Down
also
home, meaning a conversation like we're having right now.
like a conversation we're having right now.
I got it. I see.
But it's down home and folksy, but it's also very, very precise. If you saw the movie Lincoln that came out about 2 years ago,
Daniel Day-Lewis
with Daniel Day-Lewis.
Is that stream on Netflix?
No, but it's definitely worth seeing.
It's worth seeing. Okay.
One of the elements in there is that people want to come in to Lincoln and talk to him about details and talk to him about policy points and decimal points, and we have to do X, Y, and Z. And Lincoln will just kind of lean back and then tell some folksy story. And at one point, I believe it was the Secretary of War, finally just throws up his hands and says, if you tell another folksy story, I'm just walking out this room right now, I can't take it anymore.
In the movie, right?
In the movie.
Yeah, right.
But as I say, this is the way that he deflected, but everything he said was very...
What do you mean deflected?
That people were coming to him saying, we need a precise answer on X, Y, and Z. And he would then just kind of drift around it instead of addressing the issue directly. And so, but everything he said was very precise and getting from point A to point B in this Euclidean way.
Okay.
And so it's this mixture of this Euclidean structure with this kind of very, very sugar pill of talking nice and folksy.
Well, I don't want to use the word sugar pill. I mean, it sounds candid, folksy.
No, as I say, it's very much knowing how the audience reacts and reacting to the audience. As I say in the book Lincoln at Gettysburg by Wills, there is this dichotomy between all the other politicians who have these, they have written out their speeches in advance, and their speeches are 20, 30 pages long. And whereas Lincoln can just get up there and it just flows. Because he knows what he wants to say, and so he doesn't need a scripted speech. And as they say, there's the question of what is the true text of the Gettysburg Address? Because quite literally, it's like bullet points in the back of an envelope. I want to say A, I want to say B, I want to say A, and we'll get around to these points.
I see. So the one advisory for giving good public speech is just sort of knowing what you want to say, rather than having it all printed out exactly. You're almost better off. Potentially, I'm getting from you, like you're better off with bullet points because actually you'll reach your audience better because you'll be forced to speak in a very common, casual manner. But
and
it's
also, as
precise
they say,
you're still trying to get your points across, so you're going to address them, but it's casual.
And as I say, you're also then getting the feedback from the audience.
I got it.
Because
Instead
one of
of reading.
yeah, because they say
Yeah.
if you're just reading the script, then you're just barreling forward.
Uh-huh.
You often see this at politicians at like political conventions,
Uh-huh.
where the audience starts clapping, and the politician's like, I'm in mid-sentence. I'm supposed to be getting to the next sentence right now.
Uh-huh.
What are these people doing clapping?
Right.
No, you're supposed to want them to clap, and you're supposed to like respond to that
Right.
feedback from the audience.
Right, right.
So they say it's a level of political skill between those who are just reading the thing and those who are like in this active engagement of the audience.
Uh-huh.
The audience.
Uh-huh.
And as I say, that's the thing where you have the bullet points as opposed to the firmly constructed speech,
Got it.
because you can then, as I say, on one hand, like you want to have a firmly constructed speech because you want to know what you want to say, but you also want to know that if you have to, you can like drop out of it at any moment,
Mhm.
and then
And come back to it.
and then come back to
Yeah.
it.
Mhm.
And as I say, that's the kind of thing where you want to master this, styles of persuasion
Uh-huh.
that you would get from reading Lincoln, reading Twain, reading Carnegie, reading
Just reading their books.
Peale. Yes, and
Uh-huh.
reading Peale,
Uh-huh.
because they will
Peale,
teach
right,
you.
the preacher. Uh-huh.
They will teach you how to do this type of, addressing to the audience in a
Uh-huh.
way that, you're not. As I say, a lot of one of my favorite moments in the last debate
Uh-huh.
is Ted Cruz said the Democratic debate was a debate between the Bolsheviks and the Menkovich,
Uh-huh.
which is
Which
good.
Which one was this? Which debate?
This was the Fox Business.
Okay, sorry to interrupt. You were
Um,
saying debate between the Bolsheviks and the Mensheviks.
Mensheviks.
Menshevik.
So that's a funny joke if you know who the Mensheviks are.
Uh-huh.
Which,
No, very few people do.
yeah,
right.
probably, as they say,
And so that was
probably the bulk of Americans don't know it.
Uh-huh.
So it's a very good, like, scripted out line,
Uh-huh.
but it doesn't. It's not it's not the kind of thing like where you're actually trying to like speak to the audience.
Mhm.
Whereas I say the Trump style of speaking, where it's just this kind of like it seems like he's just kind of drifting away and he's going all sorts of different directions. But the thing the Scott Adams one says, no, everything he says in that speech is very precise and very well thought out. And he's just getting to these points in this kind of very fluid, folksy style.
Got it.
Which is the reason he knows this fluid, folksy style is that he spent years and years and years in the pews listening to Norman Peale.
That's interesting.
And Norman Peale then listened to Napoleon Hill.
Right.
Napoleon Hill listened to Andrew
I want-
Carnegie.
I want-
Andrew Carnegie listened to Twain, who listened to Lincoln, who then read Euclid. So it all, as I say, these are just wonderful tools if you want to pick them up and then change the world.
Got it. Interesting.